Welcome to the Hey Docs podcast with your host, Jill Allen. Today I am joined by Cary Smith, the co founder and CEO of Dundesk, a company focused on simplifying training, compliance, and HR for dental and orthodontic practices. Cary brings a refreshing take on something most of us tend to overlook: the power of a well trained team. In this episode, we're breaking down how training impacts everything from patient experience and team culture to revenue, risk, and retention, and why it should be seen as a growth engine, not a burden. So let's dive in. This episode was brought to you by Gray Finch. Hey docs, if you want to have a great business, the right practice management software is essential. But some can be slow, outdated, and lacking good support. That's why I recommend Gray Finch to all orthodontists. It's the fastest, most reliable, and most secure platform to grow your business and improve your efficiency. It's completely web-based, so you can run your entire practice anywhere and from any device with no servers, no downloads, or hidden fees. They even have the most helpful and responsive support team around. Right now, Gray Finch is giving a $500 discount to our listeners. Visit grayfinch.com/Jill Allen to learn more and see why it's one of the fastest growing providers in America. All right, everybody. I am so excited to be back here on Hey Docs, and Cary, to have you back on again. Thanks for being here with us.
You're welcome. Just another episode of me trying to be podcast guest of the year on Hey Docs.
I love it. I love it. You're making your way to the top. You're making your way to the top.
Got to start somewhere.
Exactly. Cary, in the event that maybe some of our listeners are new, they haven't caught one of the previous podcasts, would you mind just giving us a quick overview about Dundesk and who you are and how you got into our industry and what you're doing for us, really?
Yeah, sure. So thank you, Jill. For I guess the past 15 years, I've been working with the party people called dentists and the folks that they employ, their teams. I'm a clinical risk manager by background. I have an HR background. And so when I started working with dentists, my brother's an oral surgeon. That's how I started working with these business owners, is that the interest of helping them, like, really, I could talk about risk management, compliance, and process and all these things, but really my heart is like letting people go home to go live their life. And as business owners, when I work with them, sometimes they call me pretty much every day because of the nature of the work I do. Something's not going right. And that there was a problem that they're taking home with them now, and they have to deal with it. And it's not the fun part of the gig, is, when things don't work correctly. So as I started working with folks, I started to see that many times it's not physics causing these risks or some sort of outside uncontrollable force. It is controllable inside forces that are not being attended to that are causing risks. I thought to myself, how do I fix this for them? And Dundesk is the technique. It's the third technique in a series of techniques that I've been developing. But the first was insurance. I owned an insurance agency called Practice Secure, which I've subsequently sold. Then I had a training company, which is now called Tooth Nerd, which does training. But these practices with 46 different workflows and 1,400 legit tasks they have to do to stay on top of everything, it really called for a software play called Dundesk. And we built that software. We have over 20,000 users now. And it's been what they needed to help coordinate all the things that could potentially go wrong, transfer knowledge, ensure people are engaged in the work they do, and all these things. So that's how we got to today, is that the interest of us is that's why we called it Dundesk, is to allow people to go home with everything done, right? So they can live their life and let their business drive this life they want to live, not the other way around.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And I really have appreciated your vision in what you have done here, but also really, truly, with all of my clients as we've been working together over the years, it is just so nice to know that is one thing that I know my doctors don't have to stress about when
they get connected with Dundesk and are able to be like, all right, I've got all of these tasks that you and I have talked about this before. I coin it the unsexy side of the business. Nobody gets into orthodontics and is, woohoo, I can't wait to deal with my HIPAA compliance or my OSHA compliance or my whatever, whatever it is that you have to do. But it's something that we do have to do. We have to pay attention to as business owners. And even though we want to put team members in place, they will never, I feel like a lot of times they will never have that ownership and just, oh my gosh, if we don't do this right, it will truly affect me personally. But as owners, business owners, we definitely have that. And so I'm wondering if you can talk about what that means when we have this really developed out team that really understands how to use not only Dundesk, but understands the importance of paying attention to all these things and then how that can really impact our practices.
Yeah, that's a good question. I would like to propose that the world refrain from using the word compliance to be tied to these rules we have to pay attention to. I would
Mhm.
like the word compliance to be associated more with this business. As an owner, I want my business to go this direction and be this thing that I want it to be and I need it to
Mhm.
be. And if we are not doing all of the things correctly in all the actions and conversations and things we operate with every single day, if we're not optimizing those things to get this business to where it needs to go or should go or wants to go, then that is a call for being out of compliance. Right.
Mhm.
So, what we're talking about here is building a business that yields the results you intend it to yield. And then risk is associated with unintended consequences. And so then you're like, okay, that's a fair definition. I like that. My business wants to go somewhere. So
Right.
we're going to do all these things. So, what
Mhm.
are those things? And in those things is a subset of items that we have to do to comply with the law. And these standards that the state board, I just redid the Dental Practice Act training class for California, and I'm reading through these rules. They're very basement level stuff, right?
Mhm.
It's, yeah, a common knowledge, ethical person with an advanced science degree from a dental school would understand that these are the things you just don't do. But somehow the state boards all have to say, you can't tell people that your dentistry is better than the guys down the street or whatever. It's wild. It's wild. But those are like basement level things
Mhm.
that will not let your practice be successful. Those aren't the ingredients for success. So when you say the first step is that compliance is my business wants to be successful and repeatable, and I want it to be easy and enable this life I want to live so I could go home and be with my family and have my personal goals, then all of that is how we define what compliance would be. Then the second piece of that is okay, who? Like, first is what, and the second is who. Who does the work? You do as the practitioner, but you also have a bunch of people that you pay and
Mhm.
employ that do the work as well. And the level at which they are engaged and competent in the things they do will directly impact the process that yields the product that you deliver
Right.
to the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah, I think I love your vision in that, and I completely agree with you in that. We've got to really have that understanding, and I think it's great to not think of it just as I've got to meet the regulations. I've got to just do this in order to achieve this. It really is a very holistic thing that
Yeah.
plays into that plays into our practices.
We'll
So
get this. You guys, your team, all of your people, they in the last year, in 12 months, you guys have referred to me 46, 47 dentists that are starting practices. Y'all are crushing it out there helping these
Mhm.
guys. And when you meet them, it's like their eyes are crossed already. And they're like, wait a minute, what is all this? And I'm like, here's a list of stuff you didn't know about
Right,
that we got to
right.
help you with. And I hopefully break it down for them in a way that they can
Mhm.
understand and it's
Mhm.
self-paced and all this. When you guys refer those doctors to us, at their moment of life of starting a business, it is a matter of survival of just tell me what the basics are. And the
Mhm.
good news is the basics are good enough at that stage of the game. But when you get 2, 3, 7, 10, 15 employees, the basics are holding you back from opportunity And they are also probably causing you risk that you don't
Yeah.
know about. And it's latent and it's building up.
Yeah.
But to be fair to all of our doctors, when you're starting a business, there's literally too many details. And that's why you're hired and your team does such a great service. But also when you guys hand them to me, like they're already worn out, they're already worn out to a degree,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
tell them this is part of your life. It's part of your product. And we just need to embrace it and move on and optimize it as we go through time.
Yeah, yeah. And let's expand on that a little bit because you're talking about risk. And I recognize that for sure, whether it is that startup doc that we're referring over or even one of our existing practices. I think that, again, these are the areas that I feel like as business owners and as doctors, we can get so focused in on the other things. I got to market. I've got to be a good clinician. I've got to all of the things. And we've really it's easy to put that, I'll get to that later. I'll get to compliance later. I'll get to regulations later, this, that, and the other. And I'm wondering if you can, not that I want you to put a little scare factor into us a little bit, but if you can talk a little bit about if we don't pay attention to it. And I love that you brought up as your practice gets bigger because it's one thing to check the box and say, okay, I've got us going from a startup perspective. But I think, like with any business, we get comfortable as we get going along. And I haven't heard from anybody. That's important, but is it really that important? We had some team member changes, and I didn't really feel like I need to put somebody in charge of that or that we step. And I'm wondering if you can get real with us for a little bit about what that means to not pay attention to that, to not really keep that as part of our business tenants that we need to be paying attention to on that as we get bigger, as we grow and grow.
Yeah. I hope it comes across. I'm real all the time in everything I say. Because at the end of the day, no one really cares. No one really cares about the theory of everything. It
Mhm.
comes down to this. My dentists, and I have I've trained 10,000 people this year, and I have several thousand dentists that I've been working with over the years. And it comes down to this. You either become a specialist in reacting or you become a specialist in proactivity.
I
And
like that.
a specialist in reacting lives a life of just it's the firefighting. I got to go handle this. I got to go handle that. And that wears on you. And you talk
Mhm.
about burnout. It's just this constant reacting. And the
Mhm.
analogy I give is there's psychologically flight or fright. We're all scientists, right? So you learn this in school. There's actually a physical reaction to not knowing where the danger is going to come from, right? And it's like this
Mhm.
bears in the woods. I've talked about this before. You don't know where the bear is, but you believe there is a bear. And that's this reactive cycle that a lot of business owners are in, mostly because you don't have enough time to do what you need to do. So you're prioritizing by urgency versus prioritizing by imperative. And this reactivity thing causes this stress, latent stress in your body that you may recognize or you may not, but it will catch you at some point, right around usually tax time. That's usually it's like you have to pay some taxes, right? It's or this compounding,
Mhm.
not compounding stress, not compounding interest, but the issue then becomes okay, how would you rather spend your time?
Mhm.
And in software land, as we're developing Dundesk and we're thinking about how to build this software and all that, there's this adage that you get your product right, then you get your distribution, your sales and marketing right, and then you go fast. But the aspect of marketing the business and the pumpkin parties that are the pumpkin contests that are all going to happen right now
Yep.
coming up and all that, people spend a lot of time and effort on that. But the reality is that you're stepping over important things that aren't getting done
Mhm.
that you should have done in April or
Mhm.
May, or,
Yep.
talking
Yep.
about that. So it's like, how do we change that mindset and say, you know what, I should be spending more time on the proactive piece of it than just being a reactive specialist? And I feel like when it comes to these rules, to be real, that it's not a problem until it is. And at that moment, that can break you because you've already have this latent risk or latent anxiety about, I'm not really doing these things. And now you have a patient issue, or you have an employee issue, or a bracket goes down, aspirates a bracket, and then that's what breaks it. That's what breaks you. You're like, man, I don't know if I can do this. Or your business partner flakes out on you for some reason, or you got to grab your office manager out of jail, or some like crazy thing happens. That's why you prepare yourself with proactivity, because risk is real. It will happen, but it's not random. It's actually predictable for the most part, because it's already happened to other people. You look at all these things. So you say, okay, now how do I do that? How do I start becoming more proactive, which is maybe your next question. But it comes down to where do you spend your time? So the average person spends about, in social media, roughly an hour a day in social media. And I'm like, okay, how come you're not spending an hour a day on your business? It's like, people ask me all the time, hey, have you seen the show on Netflix, or did you see the news or whatever? I'm like, no, I don't consume any of that, because if we go back to the definition of compliance, where I want to go as a business, those things are out of compliance with where I want to go, because guess what? Those things don't help me build a business that enables my life I want to live. It's distraction. And so if you can eliminate those sorts of things and reprioritize, then you can start to build, like people always say there's no time, but there is time. And you can reprioritize where you're paying attention and realize, wow, Facebook does absolutely nothing for your business. You think it does because you got to market, it does nothing for your business directly that's measurable. Maybe people call you because they found a friend that saw their orthodontic treatment, blah, blah, blah. But the reality is that if you spend any more than just a few fleeting moments on social media, you are wasting your time that could be dedicated to a business that supports this life vision you have for yourself, right? Facebook's not going to do that for you.
Yeah. That doom scrolling is not the answer. It may be you need a mental break, but it's definitely not the answer.
I mean,
for building a business.
4 scrolls in on dogs, and I'm like, why? I've got real dogs I could be playing with right now.
Yeah, exactly. And you said something just a few sentences earlier, and I always tell my docs, we need to make time to work on our business while we're in our business. And that is taking time weekly, monthly, quarterly to really dive in and think about these things again that are not the fun things. It's fun to go, or at least for some doctors, to go be like, ooh, I'm going to go film the next reel, and I'm going to learn this new dance, and I'm going to do this or that. And that may, in one small component of your business, help grow it, but the things that we have to be paying attention to, our books, our overhead, our compliance, our team building, like pouring into training your team how to execute things correctly in your office so that everybody stays safe. Those are the things that we can always find other things to put our mind on instead of the things that we really need to, which I think is what you're saying.
Yeah.
And that kind of leads me into my next question, that I want you to just talk about how, if we can manage those things, it really does translate into patient experience, how it translates into a team that's all moving and directing in the same direction, versus this. A lot of times I think we get this collective group of people that's all working for themselves and moving in their own direction. And I just think that causes such dissension within our teams, but can also, I think, really open us up as practice owners for risk and just liability issues.
Yeah, you stack the number one risk to dental practices financially right now is going to be cybersecurity, pretty much. You're being attacked all the time. But right at number 2, trying to be number 1, is this employment practices liability piece, right? And most people would say the people caused the data breach and the HIPAA thing, so maybe they are number 1. It's touch and go. Financially, if you stacked it up by money, it's going to be a data breach is the most expensive. But then also your biggest expense in your practice is your payroll, right? I don't know. We can argue that point later. Here's the way I would think about it. Fire all your people today, right? Just haul off and fire them all and see how much money you make tomorrow. No, you don't make anything tomorrow. So let's start there. If I'm generating revenue because of the efforts of people, I should place that activity as the thing that I pay attention to the most. It's an ROI conversation for the payroll. It's also a ROI conversation for the patient. It's also a return on investment scenario for you when it
Mhm.
comes to practice value. It's amazing to me, while someone will spend time to go coordinate all their team to do a dance outside, and then you come in and you open up their emergency drugs and they're all expired for 3 years, and the AED pads are expired and there's no battery in the AED, right?
Mm.
It's these people that you employ are your business, right? And so there's two things that drive your business. One is software and the other is people, right? And that's really where the practice owners should spend their time, because if you want to manage risk, get the result you want, then you have to invest every moment you can in the people and in your processes that are usually automated with software. And if you don't, guess what happens? You can't ensure the result,
Yeah.
which the first thing I said at the very beginning was, you can't another way to say this is, you can't ensure the life you want to have.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
scary. From when I came to that realization as a business owner, I get 50 emails every morning for a variety of reasons, business emails. Like my first hour is deleting emails. And I'm like, this is not helping my business go to where I want it to be. And
Mhm.
so it's not a question of, do I need to comply with the laws? Yes. Do my people deserve organization and define roles and clear workflows and all? Yes, they do. But the big number one is, when you put your feet on the floor in the morning out of bed, is like, will I do the things that will get me what I want today?
Yeah.
Like that real
Yeah.
fundamental piece. And then if it doesn't fall into that bucket and supporting you, like air or water in your coffee or whatever, you don't do it. You stop doing it. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
as real as I can get, because at the
Mhm.
end of the day, like last night I did a lecture, there were 30 doctors in the room, and a doctor asked, he goes, why is the number one cause of, why are dentists more prevalent in suicide issues? And I answered the question, like stress and job and all this. But then afterwards, he came to me in a one-on-one and said, hey, I had to take a loan out to make payroll last week. Right. It's okay. Why are you here? You should be spending time with a financial. I can imagine this person's life is not dedicated to their business, and these are reactive things that are happening,
Mhm.
because financially, when you're not going to be able to make payroll like months in advance, because you can look at the numbers and tell you
Right.
this.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
And how stressful.
yeah, it is stressful. But to bring it back to this people conversation, it said, if the people are your product, your people are your reputation, and you want an ROI out of this whole system that you're generating, then you need to put the I in ROI, invest in
Mhm.
those people, right?
Yep.
And not just take them to the conference in San Antonio at the Texas Dental Association meeting once a year and call it good. It is an every moment investment in
Mhm.
course corrections, development planning, training, cross training. There are so many people that could be leaders in dentistry, and they just don't have any leadership training. So guess who gets to lead all the time? The doctor. And
Right.
and so there's like this really wild scenario unfolding, and I've seen it for years now, and it's just like, how do we improve that for our doctors? And the solution is to refocus your attention on the people in your practice and how it runs. And if anything, if you have any time left over while you're in the workday, then do something else with that. But once you leave at 5:01 p.m., then let work stay there and be with your family.
Yeah.
And so that's going to be the solution for satisfaction in what you do. And it sounds ethereal. It does sound mythical, ethereal, whatever the word is, but it's true. You
Mhm.
have the time.
Mhm.
You have the time to make it work for you.
Yeah. No, I cannot agree with you more. And I think that is something we're all balance, whatever you want to call it. We're all working towards that, working for that as we're going along.
And now, a word from the sponsors who make this podcast possible. Are you thinking about opening an orthodontic practice? I know, it's a big decision, but saving 25% on the ADEC equipment you need to get started, that's an easy one. Because ADEC has a special program called Smart Start, designed to help you launch your first practice. you get up to 25% off your ADEC orthodontic equipment and furniture. You also get complimentary services to help you run and grow your business. And my favorite part, access to the Smart Start pricing for 2 whole years after you open your doors. That gives you flexibility to add more chairs as your cash flow grows. It's pretty smart. As an orthodontist, you care about getting all the little details right, and ADEC really got it right with this program. So if starting off with a big savings on ADEC equipment sounds good to you, the ADEC Smart Start is definitely worth a closer look. Just follow the link in the show notes to learn more. Hey docs, let's talk about Smile Suite, because it's not just another scheduling system. It's a game changer in the world of new patient management. And as a proud Smile Suite partner, I've witnessed the incredible impact it has on practices of all sizes. Smile Suite means your new patient calls and web leads are expertly handled 7 days a week, even during nights and weekends. And they offer top-notch customizable presentation software and seamless post-consultation follow-up. It's like having a secret weapon for your practice's success. Curious? Dive into the revolution at GetSmileSuite.com. And don't forget to mention Hey Docs to unlock some extra goodies. Elevate your practice with Smile Suite, because every smile deserves a suite of excellence.
And I'm wondering if you pretty much hit on it all, but I just want to bring this back to how this completely relates into team culture. And I think loyalty as a team, because I think one of the big stressors we all have as business owners too is it's not only staying up on all the things that we have to and keeping our team happy, but not having our team get burnout, not having constant turnover. And I'm just wondering if you were talking a little bit about leadership. And I know you and I have had some discussions over breakfast and whatnot about the point of it doesn't have to be just the doctor being the leader in the practice, and really empowering your team to be able to see that they can be leaders within their own space. They can help direct what that culture is going to be like, the living environment that they come in and interact within in that 8 or 9 hours that they're there in your office. I'm wondering if you can talk just a little bit about that. And maybe there's a little bit of a segue into tooth nerd there, because we didn't talk much about that. But if you can just break that down a little bit, because I love your perspective on this.
Okay, so there's 4 thoughts I have. So let me just run with, let me just run with the one. And I'm glad you used culture and not harmony. I hate this team harmony thing. I just hate it. It's too touchy-feely for me. I'm kind of like hard-coded. This is what we got to do. Let's go do it. Culture is not something that obviously is you can design. It is an output at the end of everyone existing and doing what they need to do in your business. This is my definition, and I'm not a psycho scientist or whatever they call them. I'm obviously not educated in the psychology of it all. But for me, let's just start with some really easy things. I know what to do, and it's clear what my success factors are. And my leader, whoever that is, recognizes that I'm doing what I need to do. And if I'm not, they tell me that day or that minute so I can do better. And then when I leave happy, right? I
Mhm.
leave this office like these people got me. I understand. And if everyone, like in a sequence of events where like dentistry or orthodontics, in a sequence of events, there's different people involved in each sequence of the events. And at the beginning of the sequence, if there's an error, that error kind of multiplies through the process. And so it impacts everybody in a negative way, where it's I didn't do anything, but now I'm having to take this work piece that's broken and defective and do what I can with it when I was expecting it to be perfect when I got it. And so just having everyone have clearly defined roles and clearly competent in what they're doing is the first step. And then just a general willingness to work with each other to make sure that the process unfolds
Mhm.
like we intend it to do is like the basics, right?
Mhm.
And you said people going all over and doing everything. I think that causes what it causes unintended results. And if
Mhm.
you look at Yelp reviews, Google reviews, Facebook reviews, whatever, patients experience unexpected results or unintended outcomes, and they complain about it because it's like, that's not what I expected. It's the same for employees. They just don't have a Yelp channel to complain about you as a leader, to say what's happening at work. So the issue for the start is to clearly define those roles. You're doing a couple things with that. One, you're making it easy for everyone to understand what you expect of them. Two, they can execute properly. You can reward them based on performance, not based on tenure. And three, you can course correct based on their observed actions, and you can do it iteratively rather than waiting for the annual review to unload on them on, you know what, you're really a B player here. And so if you'd have told me 9 months ago, I could
Right.
have improved. And then tie your rewards and compensation to success in completing what they should be doing anyway, right?
Mhm.
I think that all of that is easy said. Sometimes doctors need help, especially in bigger teams, because they probably haven't hired correctly. They've just hired for someone that could do the job, but they didn't get the right person with the right attitudes and behaviors and values, right? So there's a component to like, do we have the right people in play? And
Mhm.
so you got to, like, again, get your product right, right? And
Yep.
that is this delivery piece. And then the distribution, the sales and marketing piece, get that going once your product is correct. But too many times it's vice versa. And we're throwing prospective patients at a process and at a business that's not optimized or ready to take them properly.
Yeah.
That's really where I come at from a risk
Yeah.
management angle, because if then the risk happens because the error, right? Things just
Mhm.
aren't happening correctly. And that's where the risk comes from, right?
Yeah. No, I think that's great. I know I threw a lot at you in that question, and
I
you
don't know.
answered
I
you
don't even
you
know if I
answered that.
answered the question.
No,
I
you
just,
answered that perfectly. Again, I just think there's just so much that we have to think about as business owners, and getting your team culture right. And you even talked about hiring a lot of times, especially I see this a lot like you do with established practices where maybe people that were hired, we didn't really have our core values and our core
hmm,
components down. And we were hiring to just fill a spot. Or I feel like in our industry, we have a lot of the Peter principle going on. If anybody's ever read that book, highly suggest reading it. But where we are moving people into positions or moving them up in our companies because they're good at this, so therefore they should be good at that. And actually, we're almost moving them into a place of incompetency
hmm,
where they, just because they're good at one thing and we move them up, doesn't always mean that they're going to be good at that next level, especially if we haven't provided the training. And it's almost like we're setting our team up for failure when we get into that. And likewise, I think getting into those traps of, I speak a lot on this in on our side of the industry of changing that norm of we give raises just because somebody's been here for X amount of time versus we give raises because of somebody's knowledge and their willingness to grow and to
yep.
learn something new. And here's the thing, I'll stand on my soapbox for just a minute, docs, anybody that's out there leaning into this is I would rather have a team. I think as a whole, most of us as business owners or doctors, we're those type A pusher driver personalities. And the thing of it is, we can't have a whole office of those. And I think sometimes that we forget to be okay with, hey, I just need somebody that's going to show up. Like I call them our employees like a level one, level two, level three, then our skill level set. And it's okay to have a fair amount of our employees that are just that level two. They're happy to be there. They're happy to work hard for you. They're happy to come and be really good at what they do, but they don't have to be always pushing to be a level three because a lot of times the level three means up and on and eventually out of your practice. And so I know that's a little total side rabbit for me, but I think you just brought up some really good points. And I think as business owners, if we can keep that in mind and not just get caught in that complacency of this is the way we've done it in the industry, so this is the way we need to continue to do it. The doctor's the leader, the doctor's the only one responsible for everything, that we can really share that burden too.
So you can go that direction. For me, when I hear that, I'm not disagreeing with you at all. I
Mhm.
agree. It's just like when we think about people specifically, I'm a big believer of when you talk about culture, the culture is, does my employer enable me to live the life I want to live? And is that a professional life where I can trajectory up, or is it a life where I don't care what happens at this practice at 501, right? I'm going to go do my thing.
Mhm.
But while I'm here, I'm going to do a good job, but this paycheck and the flexibility and the all the benefits and whatever that is enables me to go live this life I want to live as an
Mhm. Mhm.
employee. Fantastic. Those are the employees that stay someplace for 15, 20
Right.
years because they're like,
Right.
hey, this place gives me what I want. And when I'm done with it, I go do some other cool stuff. It's when this process where their experience in your business, they end up taking it home with them. That's when you end up with engagement issues and retention issues, right? So it's okay, we're back to how do we optimize like the ease of being an employee here at this business? How do we
Right.
link rewards to actual profits? I don't like raises. I like profit sharing, right?
Mm.
Raises are like, hey, come to work, do a good job. Profit sharing is we all did a good job. Here's your cut.
Right.
And it's going to be unfair. We're all not getting the same amount of the pie because not everyone's contributions are the same, but at least you're paying based on your compensations based on value creation. And
Mhm.
that's really where owners, when it comes to people, it's like, hey, how much value do you want to create for my business? And if you want to create more value, am I enabling you to do that? Am I investing in you to go to create more value? And an example of this would be a dental assistant that is clearly intelligent, right? But came from a life where their parents didn't have any experience and were probably blue collar. And the fact is, she's a dental assistant because she had no other options, usually not going to go,
Mhm.
or aspirations to go to college or whatever. But you can tell this person's actually intelligent, right? And so you're like, okay, how do I leverage that to the betterment of my business? And so do you put them in a leadership development program? And is that something they would even want? Because maybe they don't. I don't know. Are you having that conversation? This comes,
That's the key, right?
yeah, you
Are
have
you
to have that.
having that conversation?
And this is why last night I laughed because I said, raise your hand. There's 30 doctors in this dinner. And I said, raise your hand if you have a 90-day probation. All of them raised their hand. And I said, why? Welcome to your practice. You're in trouble day one. It's a terrible way to do it. It's a risk management strategy because they're probably not good at hiring. So they're going to go ahead and have someone in the practice and have an opportunity to fire them in 90 days. I'm like, hey, let's flip it around and have a 90-day development window. And by the end of 90 days, everyone's going to know this person's a great fit for our business or they're not going to cut it. And
Yeah,
so
I love that.
just burning a 90-day development piece with active conversations, every week. How'd you feel?
Mhm.
Here's what you're going to learn next week. Here's what you're and bring them in. And it's a hedge against retention issues, but it's also you're trying to get them to be as productive as they can, as quickly as they can. So your ROI on hiring them is realized, right? So
Yeah.
it's those sorts of things that when you talk about culture, that's where the culture would is the end of the process. That's where
Mhm.
it builds this thing where everyone understands and we're achieving. And when we leave, again, I want it to be done when you leave at 501 in the afternoon, then that's where the culture comes from. Cause then they're happy to come back to work into that situation
Mhm.
versus the drive in where they're like, ah, hell, I got to go through that again.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Carrie, this is I know you and I could we
Is
could
this
keep
hour?
this
This is hour one of five.
right.
Let's
Yeah.
go. Let's keep going. Let's keep going.
I know we could just talk, and one of the things that I absolutely love about you is we share a lot of the same views and just really have a passion for helping our docs and their practices. Unfortunately, we're going to have to wrap this up. So, if somebody wants to find out more about Dundesk, just pick your brain about some of these topics that you've been unpacking for us. What is going to be the best way that they can do that or get in contact with you?
Pretty easy. Dundesk.com or Cary, Cary at Dundesk.com. You can hit us up there. There's like people live most of the day. We're in the US, right? So we have people watching all that stuff. They can get your message to me. Or you can call Jill or Annie or Tracy or anyone over there at your shop and they'll get you my information.
Yep,
That's for sure.
absolutely.
I think here's the real, if you've made it this far in the podcast, thank you for listening to me rant with Jill. Jill's amazing. I would say this: everything I've said can be done. Everything I've said has been done. Everything I said is easy when you take it apart into its fundamental pieces and start rebuilding it. I know where you're at because I've been there as a business owner where you're driving, probably listening to this in traffic. You're like, yeah,
Mhm.
but I've got a lot of things I'm worrying about. And the reality is, yeah, but you are spending too much time in places where you shouldn't spend it.
Right.
And the fixed track starts with you being mentally healthy, physically healthy, and ready to work as the leader. And then the second step is find someone on your team to be you, to help you as a leader. And if you don't
Mhm.
have them, go get them. And there's a lot of resources out there, and I can help you with that. And Jill certainly can help you with that. But don't feel overburdened with the prospect. It's something you can fix. You've done it. You've done all the hard work. You've gone to
Yeah.
dental school. You've gone to residency. You've hired all these people. You have the loans. You have the equipment. You have the marketing. You have the website. You have all the people coming in. And now it's just how do we fix one thing every week to improve the output of your process? You can do it. I say it's not hard if you take it in little pieces,
Yeah.
but it may seem daunting where you're sitting today. And I'm just here to tell you, you can and you will if you want.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great way to finish this up. Thank you. You know how I like to finish this, a little speed round. Are you ready for the Hey Doc speed round challenge?
Oh, okay. Yeah. I forgot about this part. Let's go ahead. I guess podcast guest of the year doesn't remember the speed round piece, but
You've been knocked down a notch. No, just kidding.
exactly. Try again.
All right. All right. Here we go. We'll run through this quickly. What is the most unexpected lesson you learned in your career?
Oh, that you can do things. Like, just because no one's told you could do it also implies that you can't do it. But you can. I've started a software company. I had no business I have no background starting software company, and I did, and it worked. Right? It's
Yep.
great.
Yep. I
The
love
other
that.
one is if you have an intuition, take advantage of it because it is real. It
Ooh, I
just
like
because you
that.
can, just because you don't think you can, if you have an intuition, do it because it's your heart telling you that is going to be a reality for you if you take action.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. All right. And here's one more. What is one business trend you think more people should be paying attention to?
There's obvious ones like with AI and all that, but oh, I guess the one thing I would say is that as a practice owner, you're a clinician, you think more biology and business, but I'm seeing more and more that these companies, even companies that aren't involved in dentistry, are trying to get into dentistry, and you are literally a software company. And
Mm,
you have to think like a software company because everything you do runs through software, and get away from the biology aspect of it so much as a leader. And the business trend is that your life is just going to be software down the road if
yeah.
it's not already. And
Yeah.
so that's a big trend. I think a mindset trend more than
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah. That's great. That's great. Again, thank you so much for being here on Hey Docs today with me. And I can't wait for our next podcast session. So thanks, Cary.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you, Jill. I appreciate you guys. I love your team. Your team's amazing. I'm not blowing smoke. They really are. Everyone's I
Thank
work with is
you.
really good. So thank you.
Thank you. All right. See ya.
Bye.